Hey everyone, so before we actually start the raid, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys something because one of the frustrating things about this raid is where it's located and how to get to it. In my opinion, but I know I'm not alone in this opinion, this raid, it's actually right here. It's not showing for my DK for some reason, I don't know why. But it's located way over here. Now, I want to give you guys a bit of extra context, and I put my Demon Hunter in position to show this to you guys. Now, we're starting here on my Death Knight because this is the Death Knight that I did the majority of the Shadowlands content. This was my main in Shadowlands, which means this is the DK that has like a lot of the high exalted reps with all the different things. Like I'm, exalted with Venari, Wild Hunt, and Dying Art. You get the idea. And I bring this up because there is a way to actually access from Venari, a way to get to the entrance of the raid. It's actually not here because I've already bought it. But you see this right here? Now, normally, if you don't have it unlocked with her, like, rep-wise, this would only take you to over here. Actually, hold on. Am I looking at the wrong one? Or did they remove it? So, hold on a second. Let me look around because I remember this. Oh, it's right here. Okay, hold on. So this right here. This, and I'm pretty sure this is not unlocked on my other characters. This is only on my main character. Maybe it is, and I just didn't even realize it. It's possible. But I'm also wanting to show you guys what this was like before they added this. So, before, they didn't have a way for you to just go straight to the entrance. No, instead what you had to do is you had to go out through there. But once you got it unlocked, you could pick one of these, which this was a way for you to unlock them and go around the mall, because going around the mall was a pain. The mall was a massive pain to get around, especially early on when you were not allowed to mount in here, because you were just having to run around on foot, and this place is full of very high-ranked enemies. There are tons of elites in this place. This place hurt. This place caused a lot of players a lot of problems. So they decided, hey, we'll put the raid entrance in the, behind a lot of those and just put a lot of those enemies in the way. But once you got this unlocked, you could just do this. So that, of course, is where that world boss would be. And it would take you right over
Our
here.
enemies amass outside Hellgod Keep.
So you could take that and just go straight over here, and hey, there's the raid entrance. Right? Summoning stone there. So that's on my DK who has that unlocked. Now let me show you what it was like to go to here when you didn't have this unlocked on another character. Now, unfortunately, there seems to be an issue with some people on certain characters where if you don't have Shadowlands content unlocked, you are not able to really access the mods. There seems to be a bug going on right now, as some of my guildmates and I discovered, where if you have a character that's 70 or above that never touched Shadowlands, you can't seem to unlock or access it. As in, you can go to Oribos, but if you try to go down to the mall, it just kicks you back out and you stay in Oribos. But there's also no quest available for you to go access to. Even if you talk to Mograine and you skip the mall intro, nothing then activates afterwards for you to be like, hey, I want to access Shadowlands content. Nope. Doesn't let you do that. So I positioned her right here because I want to give you guys context. This is basically, if you wanted to get to this raid without having that little fast travel I showed you unlocked, you had to either start Venari's Refuge and run through here, and then get to probably here or here. Or you could go to Korthia, which this is the area that was unlocked when this raid was added in this patch. You could start here. Now, you also have a flight point between this place and Venari's Refuge, and you could go up here and then go up this way to this entrance here. And then you would try to run past all these things, but usually their aggro radius was pretty high, because at current content, these things would just be like, "Hey!" and immediately attack you, and you'd have to fight through so much high-level elite enemies here just to get to the raid entrance. Like, there are even elites and rares here in the way as well. There's a world boss over here, so, like, right over here, there's Morgeth. How many of you guys remember farming him? Even to just, not just hopefully get a good piece of gear, but also some anima. Yeah, it was, you see all these enemies here. Imagine having to fight through these all the time just to get to the entrance of the raid. Or even just to reach the world boss. Like, if you were actually wanting to go over here and to, you know, fight the world boss, imagine having to then try to, you know, go through all these enemies, and there would be a whole bunch of them, like, roaming around here that you would have to accidentally aggro and have to fight off just to get to the world boss, which I find amusing that someone's already killed the world boss, probably soloed it. There's Helia's Grasp. Remember when they revealed that Helia was here? But yeah, you'd have to fight through all these, just to get to the raid entrance. So if you're able to unlock that, and I think you have to... Hold on a second, because you'll notice my Demon Hunter can't touch it. I can't access that. And I think it's because, if I recall, you had to have unlocked it with Venari, but in order to unlock it, you had to have had like a certain amount of rep and then buy an item from her, which required Stygia in order to get. It was a pain. A massive pain. I'm going to go ahead and do this on Heroic. Why not? There's actually quite a few pieces for the leather set on Heroic that I don't have. I have the entire Heroic set for my Death Knight unlocked, the plate set, but not the...
Sanctum looms above us. How do we breach it?
The Taragru blocks our way. Champions, it is time for the jailer's pet to meet its end. I fear darker days, Hut. Bring down those beasts. You'll need their power to face the Taragru.
Huh. I don't think I ever actually finished the Heroic skip quest on my Death Knight. I may have to bring him back here and make sure that I actually finish that off so it's unlocked for my account, at least on Heroic. But I mentioned how, like, there's quite a few stuff here that I actually really like. You'll notice I have now finished collecting all of the Anniversary Tier 2 sets. Yay. Let me see, where is it? Here it is. So I've finished I'm making, funny fact, you can actually craft the basic appearances of the Mythic set. Those Umbra Hide, that counts for the Mythic set, so you could just craft those if you wanted, or have somebody else craft them for you if you don't want to have to bother coming to collect them here in this raid. But you'll notice, like, I've got most of the normal set, because I actually did bring, like, this and the other Demon Hunter to normal. I didn't finish the Raid Finder one, even though I think the Raid Finder one is actually pretty good. And then the Heroic, I never actually finished. Now, on my Death Knight, I absolutely did. Oh, I actually can't show the Death Knight one here on my, that's unfortunate. Hold on. Let me try that again. Where is it? Sanctum. There it is. So again, you could just craft the Mythic one, but I finished both the normal and the Heroic one on my Death Knight when this was current content. So you'll notice there's a certain type of color scheme for the different sets here. For Raid Finder, it was kind of like, okay, this is a kind of a cool little, like, darker metal type of look here. Normal, it's a little lighter. Heroic, it was gold, and then Mythic, it was black and red. And so that's the plate set, as you saw. The male set is this one right here for Hunters, Shamans, and Evokers. And the cloth set is this one right here. So let's just say that it was very clear to me early on that I was going to be wanting to farm these pieces and these sets, and it's the same thing basically for a lot of the weapons that are here as well. If you were to look at some of the weapons that drop, like this guy, the first boss is going to drop a Warglaive. It's a golden one. On Mythic, it's a black and red one. You get the idea. So there were, like, each of these have, like, really cool, like, I really like this kind of aesthetic and this, like, you know, appearance, scheme and type here for these different kinds of pieces of gear. So I was just thinking to myself, like, man, I absolutely want to come back and farm these pieces so much because a lot of them just look really cool. Like, the effects are cool, the visuals, I love the color scheme, especially the black and red stuff in Mythic. So I was basically already anticipating that someday when you could solo these, I would come back and farm these. And of course I am. Also, I want to show off something else, and there's a reason I want to show it off now, because it's actually going to play a role in this raid, believe it or not, and I'll explain why. Arthas! He's such a cute puppy! Hey, Arthas, who's a good puppy? Who's a good puppy? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. He's so cute. But yeah, you can see basically everyone's here. The Horsemen are here. Trollbane, Mograine, Nazgrim, Whitemane, Jaina and Thrall are here. And of course, Bolvar.
We all have a duty to fulfill.
I feel Kel'Thuzad's presence in these halls. Claim shards from his phylactery, and I'll be able to open a new pathway into his chambers. 4 shards should be enough. We wouldn't want him coming back again, would we?
We'll deal with that when we get there later on. But yeah, basically, the quest is kill Kel'Thuzad 4 times, and that will unlock the skip, which lets you go straight from killing the first boss straight to Kel'Thuzad, which lets you skip, you know, I-9, Remnant, Soul Render. You can skip all these and just go straight to Kel'Thuzad, and then, of course, to Sylvanas at the end. So, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's start things off with, well, basically a way for us to kind of deal with what's been happening in Torghast. Yeah, you guys, I'm sure a lot of you don't want to remember Torghast. But you guys, of course, remember these, right? Now, I will say this. Let me... Okay, so I also want to show that this is what they have changed for soloing this. When you solo this now, these are the only 4 powers that become available to you. The Ever-Beating Heart, which makes you immune to fear and stun, which is honestly the only one you really need for this upcoming boss fight if you're soloing this. The Tremor Beast Heart, increasing your primary stat by 15% and regen every 5 seconds. The Oddly Intangible Key, 90% less damage from area effects attacks. I remember loving to get this because of it basically allowed me to not have to, you know, ignore one of his abilities in the fight. And, of course, the Disembodied Mystic Hands, where your attacks have a chance to steal a beneficial magic or enrage effect from your target and applying it to yourself. So, yeah. I'm going to grab the heart first. And, by the way, you know, like I said, you only have to... You don't have to get any of these. I would still recommend grabbing the one that makes you immune to fear or silence. But, you know, it's entirely up to you. I would still recommend doing that. I'm going to go ahead and grab all 4 just for funsies. So, while I'm doing this, let me go ahead and talk a bit about this, about Torghast. I'm just going to say this. I don't hate Torghast as much as other people do. I know a lot of people will hate it because it became a requirement. It became Torghast. And yeah, I will admit there were times I was not fond of having to go do it, especially at certain times. And both Ian and Preach talked about this in an interview that Mike had with Ian, where Ian understood, looking back on it, that people just did not want to have to go do those things. Especially if it was like late Monday night and they had been working all week or were doing stuff and they were tired and they were like wanting to go to bed, and then they realized, oh wait, I haven't done my Torghast run for the week to get my currency that I need to be able to contribute towards making my crafting a legendary, and they basically felt like they were forced to have to do it. And the thing about Torghast is when it was first like announced and it was first like shown off and teased and like in like initial testing and PTR and all that stuff, and they released like the amount of different powers you could get from it, it looked like a lot of fun, and it was something that I had always wanted to do, which was giving us an opportunity or a place to be able to, just for funsies, have incredibly overpowered stuff for our class, just to let us just, at times, just go nuts and have overpowered fun with our class, with things that our class we've always wanted to do but have never been able to do because it would be considered overpowered and it would ruin the balance and all that stuff. You guys know how players are, like, oh, it's too powerful, you know, like, it's too OP, because, of course, people have to complain about that stuff. So Torghast was a great idea to let them do that, where you didn't have to care about balance because you were getting powers that made yourself obscenely strong, but the place also was incredibly tough to deal with. And I loved that. I loved discovering some of the different powers you could have depending on what your class was. Like, Demon Hunter had one where you could... You remember in the Black Temple, and you can go do that now, because Time Walking Black Temple, where Illidan had his demon phase where he got big and he was like, behold the power of the demon within! And he got gigantic. Well, you could get a power that let you do the exact same thing when you popped Metamorphosis. I loved it. They also had this thing for my Death Knight where you could have the 4 horsemen show up and help you. And obviously this is something that they decided to go ahead and add later on when it came to what is now War Within with the Rider of the Apocalypse hero talent tree, because people like me absolutely loved that. It was so cool having these different kinds of things based on what your class was. I loved it. It's just a shame that it was also tied to, like, mandatory times having to do it. But I still remember having a lot of fun. Even if I had to do it, I was still having fun doing it. So I hate Torghast as much as other people do. And the thing is, nowadays, if you do it now, obviously when it's not current content, guess what? It's not a chore anymore. It's not a requirement. You can just go in there and essentially one-shot everything just to go collect the rewards that you never got back then. So, yeah, believe it or not, I actually enjoyed Torghast more nowadays than I did back then, and I still enjoyed it back then. But that's just me. I'm not saying that if you didn't enjoy Torghast, you were wrong or something. That's all I'm saying. I'm just speaking for myself here. And that brings us to our first boss here. Isn't Arthas so cute, just laying down, taking a nap while I'm talking? Oh, you're so cute. I'm so happy I have you now. The Terragru. The Jailer's relentless beast. The Terragru has stalked the halls of Torghast since its first spire was raised. Countless victims have felt their souls trampled to ash by this monstrosity, which now awaits the mortal champions breaching the threshold of the tower. Obviously, if we did Torghast, we remember the Terragru because he was basically like that monster lumbering through the hallways, where he's not entirely aware that you're there, but the more you did stuff, the more aware he became of you, and then he would start making his way towards you. And if he made too many mistakes, or if he died too many times, he would just be like, alright, that's it, I'm gonna go after you and just kick you out or kill you. So we basically always had to have this, like looking around our shoulder, like, oh gosh, where is he? Where's the Terragru? You know, that's how it was supposed to feel, basically. So when it was found out, oh, hey, guess what? We get to come in here and finally take out the Terragru for good, so he doesn't have to, like be a concern for us in Torghast anymore. Basically, like, a couple things that were annoying for the player base, we got to finally take care of, like, lore-wise in this raid. We will have that in the next boss fight as well with the Eye of the Jailer, but we're not there yet. So what I enjoyed about this fight was, of course, what you've been seeing, which is getting the powers, allowing us to get some special other buffs to be able to take him on, because, like, even in this version where I am overpowered than him, the idea here was that he was so strong, we had to get these powers just to have a shot at taking him out. So this fight I actually thought was kind of fun. I remember doing this fight quite a bit up, since he was the first boss, but I wouldn't necessarily say he was an easy cakewalk compared to other initial bosses and raids. I think he was a bit more fun than that. And again, it's partly because of the whole anima powers thing, but I also liked some of the mechanics of this fight. Hello. There we go. You will notice he has a short berserk timer.
Predator's house.
So he would, of course, cast a fear. This is why it was nice to have that one where it's like, oh, I'm immune to fear. You also see that circle around me? if I was standing next to somebody, they would get feared. Oh, the chains. Yeah, I remember the chains. It's a good thing that's not an issue anymore.
Hungering Mist.
But yeah, there was a decent amount of coordination we had to do. And then there was this, the Hungering Mist. So you see this little area here? We had to go over here. This is where I would drop darkness to be like, quick, hide here. But then we'd have to go over here until before the next cast went off. Now, if you had the thing that I have, which is it ignores 90% of damage from area, like that's the power that let me be able to just kind of ignore that. And I could just stand in that darkness and not worry about it hurting me and just focus on DPSing the boss.
Chains of Eternity.
Then, of course, you had these over here, like, oh, quick, get over here, soak it!
More Trigar's Echoes. More Trigar's Echoes. More Trigar's Echoes. More Trigar's Echoes. Predator's Hell.
Then you had the fear removed. Like, there were some mechanics in this fight that I thought were fun. Plus, again, having those powers. There was one power you could get that was rather infamous among the player base. I forget what it was called. It was something towers. But basically, what the power did is that if you got...
Soulforge Heat. Soulforge Heat.
I think you got a certain amount of damage. I forget how exactly it worked. But the thing that everybody remembered about it is that when it happened, when it triggered, it would stun everybody else in the raid for like 5 or 10 seconds, something like that. It was considered a troll power, meaning if you took that power, you were trying to troll the group.
Forgotten Torments.
And whether it was in a guild run or whether it was in a pug or LFR, if you took that power, you would be flamed by everybody like, he's trying to troll the group! He took that power. So I see, this is what it's like if I had the one that lets me take less damage and area effects. I'm like, okay, I'll just stand here and just focus on DPSing the boss while this is going on. You can also see, like, the stacks that you could get from this.
Predator's Hell.
Yeah.
Predator's Hell.
So there was quite a bit, actually, when it came to this. This is honestly, I think, one of the better designed opening boss fights of a raid that I've seen and actually really liked. Like, as far as, like, first boss in a raid you deal with, this is honestly one of my favorites. Plus, he was one I farmed a lot because, of course, as I mentioned, he dropped some Warglaives. And me being a demon hunter, I wanted to collect these Warglaives. So this is basically the majority of the fight until you get him to a certain portion of health. Now let's see if I can just kind of like focus on getting him down to the right amount of health.
Predator's Hell. Predator's Hell. Predator's Hell.
And it was 10% health. Just kind of like whittling him down here, just because I don't want to kill him too fast.
Chains of Eternity. Remnant. Upper Reach's Might. Hungering Predator's Hell.
Alright, that should get him down to 10% any second now.
Hungering Mist.
Or maybe not. Hold on. There we go.
The animal shall survive.
Remnant. Soulforge Heat. Soulforge Heat. Soulforge Heat.
So yeah, now he does 500% additional damage until it dies. Basically, after he kills a player, he does Triumphant Roar, which is funny. But yeah, this is when you would pop Bloodlust, and it was like, quick, kill him, kill him! This was the DPS race portion of the fight right here. Kill him, kill him, kill him!
A hollow victory. You will yield to the inevitable.
Lady Proudmoore, we could use your expertise.
Of course, High Lord. The Terragru's essence is still tethered to its master. We can use that connection to open the way into the fortress above.
The jailer will unleash all his fury upon us. We must not falter.
Prepare yourselves. The Sanctum of Domination awaits.
So if you have the skip unlocked, this is where you could activate it and have this portal change, and it would get all, like, snowy and wintry, representing that you're on your way to go face Kel'Thuzad.
Ebonblade, secure the portal. We will draw their main forces to us. Champions, find a way to thwart the jailer's plan.
So we would have these Goliaths to face off. We would have all these guys to face off. And this elite guy over here. Bone Steel! Oh, sorry. Wrong one. We also had, like, so just like in Torghast, there was a number of things we could interact with in here. There were cells that we could open. There were jars we could break open that would give us buffs, just like in Torghast. You could go over here, open this up,
range.
let this soul remnant out, and he's like, oh, it finally ends. And he would give me a buff, Soul's Rage. And then you could also break open all these pots over here. Oh, look! It's Mr. Bigglesworth! Hello there, Mr. Bigglesworth. You look a little different compared to how we last saw you back in Noxramas. Ah! Hey, where you going? Come back here! Oh, well. Bye, Mr. Bigglesworth. Lots of moss worn. Working on making those things. By the way, notice that doorway over there? Just a little something I'm going to show you guys in just a moment. But yeah, temporary buffs, healing you. You could grab these during these fights just to give yourself a bit of an edge.
It's too far away. I need to get closer.
Thank you for this mercy. Ah, there it is. So how many of you guys remember going into the mall and always having that on top of your screen? I certainly do. Basically, the more stuff you did in the mall, the more this would fill up until eventually it turned red and it was like, I'm going to send all these things after you. It's one of the reasons why people hated Torghast because... Well, not Torghast, I'm sorry, the mall. Because you had all these things that were just punishing.
I need a target.
You'll notice that's filled up again. They always had these assassins hiding in the corner, ready to attack the raid. When Azeroth was young, Odin traded his eye to Mozala to peer into the Shadowlands. Vain Odin was deceived, for the jailer twisted the eye to serve his own ends. The eye's unwavering gaze allows the jailer to see all that transpires within his domain, and perhaps others as well. Yes, remember, that is in fact the missing eye of Odin. Who I am so glad we recently got to,
I need to get closer.
go punch him in the face, basically, in Dragonflight. I was one of the first to just be like, yes! Just as a reminder, I hate Odin. So I leaped at the chance to go punch him in the face in Dragonflight when that came up in that questline. I was like, yes!
It's too far away.
But you'll notice we're clearing this and that's filling up because, of course, we have to clear these guys out in order to have a shot at actually getting the eye to show up. So now it's red, so he's like, okay, that's it. I'm facing you myself.
You are not ready to face me.
So yeah, just like with the Terragru, this was another chance for players to be like, ah, you caused me so much annoyance and anguish during my time in the Maw. I am gonna, like, enjoy destroying you.
Nothing escapes my sight.
Deathling.
So this fight was kind of interesting.
Fracture soul.
Never seen defeat.
Alright, there's one mechanic I really want to show off. I actually kind of showed the chains there for a moment. Alright, so this part of the fight, we would have to make sure that each eye would be tanked and taken care of on each side. If they got close, they got a buff.
Your end.
Which was that. They were constantly doing
Corruption.
damage. So that's why we had to keep them separate, because otherwise they would just keep on doing damage to the raid. So you couldn't do that.
I will witness your end.
Drop a pull, and that pull's going to grow over time.
Fracture soul.
I'm trying to remember what actually like triggers the big annihilating glare. I think is coming up here. Alright, so yeah, I want to show that off just at least once.
Fracture soul.
So he would do that and then do his laser going across the whole thing. So everybody would have to run over here, and then we would... Whee! Now, there were some funny interactions you could actually have while doing that. You could actually attack him while you're in the middle of the air there, but there were some times where some other hilarious interactions would happen if you were also doing the chain thing at the same time. It was actually quite funny. Let me show you what happens when that gets hit by you. Oh no! Fractured souls!
Fracture soul.
Yeah, so you want to go ahead and get rid of that, otherwise it was a massive pain against you. So we had to take out the second set of eyes, and once we do this, we're basically in the DPS check portion of the fight.
Gaze upon true power.
Immediate extermination.
Deathling.
So now he reduces healing taken on all players by 10%, inflicts damage every 8 seconds, and spellcasting speed is now increased by 50%. You'll notice his eye is red. This is again his enrage DPS check phase of the fight. And of course he does the laser, so we have to go ahead and do the chains again. Whee!
It's too far away.
Yep, a whole lot more of these different types of trash burning Stygia. Borgon. Yep. The group would try to avoid him. Now, here's... You remember that door I showed you earlier? So I pointed this out to people and showed them, like, in case we wiped and we had to run back. There was a shortcut right over here. All you had to do is just go over here, flip this lever, and what do you know? We're back in this room. So yeah, I would tell people, it's like, hey, let's go ahead and grab the... open the door before we continue, just in case we wipe and we have to run back. Now, these days, of course, you try to fix that by getting a res on a healer, and then the healer gets up and mass reses everybody. But yeah. So then we also had this guy, Soul Ember. The thing I remember about this guy is he would put living bomb on you, on the group. He doesn't seem to be doing it this time. But he would put living bomb on you. You'll also notice that as we are going through this raid, we're getting rep for Death's Advance. So we also had to deal with one of these Shadow Steel Colossus here. Now, upcoming is some familiar faces and names. Well, what do you know? Look who's waiting for us. But also, notice them as well. If you have been paying attention, you probably have a recollection about some of the names here. Dacia. Kira. Signa. Yeah, some of you guys probably remember some of the names of some of these characters. Agatha. Brinja. Yeah, some of these are familiar names if you've been paying attention. Going back to, say, the Undead Starting Zone. If you did the Tirisfal Glades questing. The dark pact that Sylvanas struck with the Valkyr forged her bond with the Jailer. Through the years, these winged sisters faithfully served the Dark Lady, even if it meant sacrificing themselves on her behalf, like when Sylvanas was killed at the end of that questline. Now Sylvanas calls her 9 Valkyr to fight for her one last time. Yeah. The funny thing is, we're actually not going to be fighting all 9 of them. Not really.
You fight a battle you cannot win.
We will stop you, Sylvanas!
For Dragon, a fallen king without a throne. You will answer for your defiance. Valkyr, you are bound to me. Strike down my foes.
As you command, Dark Lady.
So she basically just knocked For Dragon back over here, but he's fine. I was just taking a moment to show off the new set that they introduced in the trading post this month, which is her old look. But honestly, I've actually always really liked that particular armor that she's wearing in this raid. With the spikes and everything, I think it looks really cool. And I would love to have that to go along with the bow that she uses in this raid. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We'll talk about Sylvanas when we get there. But what I was saying is that we actually don't fight all 9 of them. Like, the other 6 are over there on the outside. Yes. And they kind of participate in this fight, but you don't really notice because, I mean, yeah, they are basically there doing other things. Like, Arthura has Crushing Gaze, which focuses the Chill of Ice Crown upon a player and slams the ground, inflicting damage divided between all players. So they do some mechanics you have to pay attention to. So you kind of are fighting the 9, but you're mainly fighting, Kira, Signa, and then I'm gonna pronounce that Skyja or Skia. Like, forgive me if I don't remember how to pronounce her name. Kira stands at the ready with her blade, prepared to strike down her foe. So yeah, she's basically the melee one. You can see that with the sword and shield that she has. You'll also notice that these Valkyr got a bit of an armor upgrade and when it comes to their appearance. You can even see the First. Her title is the First. The Fallen, the Mighty, the Blade, the Desolate, the Aegis, the Penitent, the Voice, and the Unending. But she is the First. She is basically like the Witch King amongst the 9. 9 rings will get... Oh, sorry. Never mind. Signa speaks to lost souls, twisting their thoughts. Yeah, she she's kind of like the caster in this as well. And then there's, of course, Skia. Was the first to swear fealty to the powers of the Maw. So we will be facing the two of them. Once we take down one of them, they don't share health. But once we take down one of them, then she joins the fight. So ideally what you wanted was you want to bring their health down evenly so that you could then face Skia alone. Because you didn't want to keep fighting two of them. You wanted to just kind of like keep evenly bring their health down. I'll try to show off this fight as much as I can, but if certain mechanics just don't happen because of myself, not much I can do about it, so.
Sisters grant us strength!
So yeah, Soulful Blast had to be constantly interrupted.
Formless Mass. Call of the Valkyrie.
Mass, you had to go ahead and deal with that. Unending Strike, I believe, was the main tank. She was mainly the one that had to be tanked. So you can see the lines, that's when the others show up, like that's what Agatha brings. Basically telling them, hey, do this. Arthurud, this is the meteor that she's going to do on me.
Wings of Rage.
That we had to soak. That one sucks us in, you had to run away from that.
Formless Mass. Reverberating refrain.
my song and despair.
So this one you had to make sure you ran into the shield before it went off. Now, there was another mechanic that we had to deal with, which was...
Call of the Valkyrie.
Slay them all! You are all outmatched!
Oh, there were these soaks as well that we had to do.
Dashless Mighty Impact. Formless Mass.
Here's the bomb. They had to run out of the group.
Wings of Rage.
And there was another mechanic. I think it may be during the last phase only. Let me go ahead and prompt her to show up here now.
I join my sisters.
So she had her own separate mechanics. Fragments of Destiny. This was the one I remember because this was like one of the heroic mechanics right here.
Shard of Destiny.
You had to basically try and get these outside to make sure they didn't stack up or get in the raid group. Because as you can see, the fragment stuff is not... Okay, it's kind of going down, but...
Sisters!
Okay, maybe not?
Fall before my blade!
Resentment. Arthur's Crushing Gaze.
Crush you!
And this is when some of the other mechanics start to actually, like...
Fall before my blade!
kind of lap over and over, because this is where it's like, okay, you guys gotta now pick it up here. This is where the fight gets really nasty.
Recall.
Especially with us having to deal with the fragments, as you can see there.
Crushing Gaze. Resentment.
And that's basically the fight. I remember actually really liking this fight. I thought it was actually a rather fun fight. And a mount can drop from this. Huh. There's that polearm. And that dagger. So they drop a mount. This right here. You guys actually saw this drop on camera for me in my Shadowlands playthrough. I was doing this fight in LFR, and the mount dropped for me. Because yes, the mount can drop for you on any difficulty in this fight. Funny little story about our former raid leader, Fury, may he rest in peace. When we were working on progression in this raid, we had gotten a kill, but he wasn't very happy with how we did the fight. It was a rather messy kill, and he was not happy about how badly we got that kill. He thought we could have done much better.
Secure the chamber.
And then we saw the mount drop for him.
Anima used to empower the jailer's forges is being harvested on this floor.
May I talk, Bolvar?
Release these souls, champions. Deprive our enemy of his greatest resource.
We'll get to that in a moment, Bolvar. So we saw the mount drop for him, and we were all like, hey, Gratz Fury! We were all happy for him, and he was just like, hey, everyone shut up and let me finish talking, because he was doing his speech to us at the end, or he was talking to us, you know, trying to list off things that he thought we did poorly or things we could have done better, and can try and do better next week. The funny thing about Fury is he didn't care at all about mounts. Here, he had just gotten a cool rare mount, and he couldn't have cared less.
We will have our revenge!
It's one of those moments I remember just kind of fondly remembering about Fury that I thought was hilarious. That we were all so happy for him that the mount dropped for him, and he couldn't have cared less. Not that we were happy for him, but that the mount dropped for him, because he didn't care at all about mounts. So, do you guys hear a familiar roaring in this room? If you look over to your right over here, I know that roar. That sounds familiar. Where have I heard that before? It almost sounds a lot like... Oh, hey! What do you know? Garrosh Hellscream. So yes, he's getting tortured here by Soul Render Dormazane. And is a pretty nice, bountiful source of anima. In fact, we actually had this revealed to us.
The banished one will not be stopped!
When it came to
Target.
the little thing they showed for the different zones and for Revendreth, and we thought he was going to be revealed during the Denathrius fight. Nope. Instead, they sent him here to get tortured in the Sanctum so that the jailer could have direct access to him as a source of anima.
I need to get closer.
Now, I want to be very, very clear on this. I have said this many times, and I will continue to say this. I hate Garrosh. I absolutely despise Garrosh. In fact, you'll notice every time he gets tortured, the ads in the trash in here gets buffed. Trying to see if I can show it off here. Unless it was just those guys there, the pain drinkers. Alright, I'll show it against these ads coming up here.
I need to target something first.
Warlord's Rage. Damage done is increased by 25%. Yeah, they get buffed every time Garrosh gets tortured. So, as someone who absolutely hates and despises Garrosh, and thinks that about all the horrible things he did, and that I think the quote, Garrosh did nothing wrong, is a load of crap, I wasn't exactly like, oh no, poor Garrosh when this happened. I was thinking, hey, can I take a turn there, Dormazane, doing that, please? Could I have a few moments torturing him in your place, please? I'm not weeping for Garrosh in the slightest here.
Rage is exquisite, Hillstream. It alone could power our soul forges for eons.
Release me, worm, and I will show you true rage.
Soul-Render Dormazane extracts anima from the hellacious brutish captives of Torghast to fuel the jailer's armies. Dormazane has never met a soul that he couldn't break, but his latest victim is proving resistant to the usual methods, feeding on this captive's unending rage. Dormazane will enjoy spending millennia finding his weaknesses. So as you can imagine, Garrosh is actually a part of this fight, basically in terms of like mechanics that Dormazane will use against us. So first let's clear the platform.
It's too far away.
This was a bit of an interesting fight.
Excellent. Oh, I expected more. Mutilation is my specialty. The smell of seared flesh is intoxicating.
Such as I am not so easily broken.
So yeah, that's one of the main things about this fight. The brand. So you could actually go over here and actually have the brand do damage to the ads during this part. But you had to go ahead and kill these ads because you couldn't have them reach Garrosh because otherwise it would basically wipe the raid. Now when it came to like, oh, we have to avoid getting hit by the, you'll notice it's divided into 4 sections. So you saw where the anima from Garrosh landed, right? That was an indication to the raid, oh, that area's going to get covered up. Quick, get to the one area that's not covered up.
Break.
Mutilation is my specialty. Unleash every burden, every regret that infuses your soul, hell scream.
So we had to come over here and get these chains.
Brand of Torment.
But you could only do one on heroic, so I couldn't do another.
You are mine to slaughter.
To watch me.
Actually, I take that back. You had to grab it and then walk away in order to break it.
You will.
I bring ruin.
Brand of Torment. Tormented Eruption.
Witness the masterpiece of torment.
Alright, so here's the big part of this fight, where he's going to do that slice portion multiple times here. Although it looks like he's actually not doing it. Huh. I wonder why that is. So during this, he would basically have it where like 3 of these would get covered up, and then it would right away then do it again, but pick a different one. So we had to keep going back and forth. This is where having, say, a Warlock gateway was actually really handy and helpful, because we could set one up like across the room and just quickly take it to get to the other side.
You will suffer!
I am not so easily broken.
Mutilation is my special.
So that's basically the fight that, you know, I've basically shown you what the fight was. So we'll just go ahead and kill him.
Brand of Torment.
Now watch this.
They said I must answer for my crimes. Repent for my sins. But every choice I made, I would proudly make again.
Will submit.
I submit to no one! Not you! Not the jailer! And not that coward Thrall! For the Horde!
So, first off, it looks like they actually went back and tried to visually make the cutscene look better than how it originally came out, because when this raid first came out and that cutscene was first seen, it looked awful. Like, Garrosh's model looked terrible. The way his mouth is just flapping there as he's talking, it looks awful when it comes to the lip syncing. And I personally also hated the fact that Garrosh just straight up got the kill steal on us. And of course, Garrosh had to get this one last big speech, you know, before he is basically gone. And I'm sure that was to appeal to those who have defended Garrosh's actions. And of course, like, you heard him call Thrall a coward, because other players have said the same thing. In fact, even Fury, when I at one point when we were raiding voiced my hatred for Garrosh, Fury responded about how Thrall was a cheating piece of garbage, or POS rather. And Fury, I loved you, but man, that was one thing you and I vehemently disagreed on, buddy. But based on what we saw here, I'm hoping this means that Garrosh is now permanently gone for good, and I'm not gonna miss him, 'cause screw Garrosh. But yeah, Dormazane and Garrosh are now just a pile of ash. Nice, I got the boots for the set. Got the mace. Ooh, I got the bow. Huh. It's funny. Like, you could get this bow in this raid, and it's not the bow that people wanted, but we'll get there. So yeah, I didn't really think too much about, or rather, looking back on it, I didn't really have any, like, issues or problems with the Dormazade fight, personally, but I also don't remember, like, loving the fight. It was just kind of like, okay, you know, I don't recall it giving us too many issues or problems when we were doing progression on it. It honestly didn't feel that tough for us.
I need to get closer.
Is that you? It has been so long. Cannot see you. My eyes devoured. I opened many doors, all led to hell.
fate is torment, but I will not bear this crown alone.
So, unlike Garrosh, believe it or not, I feel the opposite for poor Ner'zhul here, because yes, this is in fact what remains of Ner'zhul. Now, I want to be clear, this is not the Ner'zhul we encountered in Warlords of Draenor. No. This is the original Ner'zhul. The one who was a shaman who loved his wife, who was deceived and tricked by Kil'jaeden and Gul'dan, and basically forced to become the original Lich King. With them using a illusion of his dead wife to trick him. I feel so bad for Ner'zhul, and this is now his fate. Intended to herald the Jailer's reign on Azeroth, the first Lich King, Ner'zhul, proved unworthy in his master's eyes. The last remnants of the fallen orc's twisted soul were encased in spiked shadow steel, condemned to everlasting torment for his failure. All who cross his path will share in his suffering. So this is how he looks at first, at the beginning of the fight, where it's basically like the remains of his soul with some pieces of armor on him. You actually can't even look at some of these other pieces. I like how the Lich King emblem there represents the Helm of Suffering. But what I want to show you is how he looks because as the fight progresses, he's going to shed pieces of that armor. And I want you to just see how he looks. This fight was also interesting. We gotta free him by getting rid of these torturers, because of course he's being tortured for his failure to the Jailer. The thing I remember about this fight is the management of some orbs and trying to prevent the entire group from being blown off the platform. See, unlike Dormazane, I think this fight gave us a little bit more of an issue when it came to progression because of that particular thing. But from what I recall, I think I actually enjoyed this fight a little bit more than the Dormazane one, if I'll be honest.
My suffering will be yours.
Orb of Torment.
So there's the Orb of Torment.
Every moment.
Suffering.
The weight of my
Suffering. Shatter. Shatter.
At last, reprieve.
So yeah, Shatter is a mechanic that happens when at 80, 60, and 30% health, where a piece of his armor gets removed. It unleashes a big wave that you saw we had to avoid getting hit by. But now you can see he lost his helmet, and you can see how he looks with that helmet off.
Malevolence.
My prison.
So here's the bomb.
Suffering.
So basically the way this bomb worked is it had to be dispelled, but once you did, everybody else in the raid would get blown away from you. And it did that. Oh yeah, there's this mechanic as well. Slices, and of course, here's the orbs, which we had the DPS down. Grab those orbs and then toss them over the side, otherwise they would be devastating damage to the group. There's the Suffering Beam, which had to be directed away from the raid group.
Wounds never heal.
Malevolent.
Shatter again.
Shackles every moment.
Suffering.
The weight of my crown.
You can hear the whispers as if he was still whispering to us, as if he was still the Lich King.
Malevolence.
But you can see his arms now.
Orb of Torment. Suffering. Shatter. Malevolence.
And now for the last shadow, where the last of his armor gets removed.
Lingering malevolence. Torment. Suffering.
Poor Ner'zhul.
Lingering malevolence.
By the way, just as a reminder, when we first came in here, he thought he was talking to his dead wife.
Malevolence. Suffering.
I come home.
Rulkan was obviously her name. I'm sorry, Ner'zhul. May you finally have peace with Rulkan. So now that is 2 sources of power that we have removed from the Jailer's forces. Garrosh and Ner'zhul. The next fight, oh my gosh. You want to talk about a fight that was a wall for some people. It was a wall for us, but it was also a wall in the Race to World First. The next fight, oh my goodness. I remember at the time thinking, man, this is a fight that's going to give so many people fits and problems. Because it definitely required a lot of coordination. Also, this room is a little bit of an annoyance. Can I just say that? Because you're suffering constant damage in here from the standing on fire, avoiding those, and then you had to fight this guy in this room while suffering damage. Notice the soul remnants out there. You probably were hearing some hammering on an anvil as we were going through this raid, and that's because, well, it was coming from this guy.
Welcome, honored guests. I have gone to great lengths to construct an eternity of pain for you. I do hope you appreciate the effort. The Shadowlands will hear your screams.
Painsmith Raznal is a sadistic mastermind who has spent eons perfecting the deadly traps found in Torghast. He's the one responsible for all those traps that would kill us in Torghast. This is the guy responsible for that. He relishes the screams of his victims as a testament to his skill, listening with malignant delight as they echo through the tower's desolate halls. So yeah, this is a guy who loves torture and loves hearing the screams of pain and agony from his victims. Yeah, this guy is messed up. Now, this fight was nuts. So, you see this entire room, but basically this whole platform, as you just saw, can be able to like use a number of different platforms. Also notice the little like pools of blood here. Also the fire down there. Held up by chains, because of course, lots of chains everywhere. You'll notice he has a buff at the moment called a Cruciform Axe, which is basically his first starting weapon. That will change as the fight progresses, but he has a number of different things in this. As the fight progresses, he will make himself some new weapons to use against us. The second part, when he gets to 70% health, he'll make the hammer, which does physical damage and applying blackened armor, which was a tank mechanic they had to deal with. And then in the last phase, he makes the dual blade scythe, where he can hurl the scythe at his target, inflicting damage and applying blackened armor. And the spikes will erupt in 4 directions and then ripple outwards from the target's location. He also had spiked balls, which would show up on one side, and you had to DPS them down. Just get one down. Just get one down so the whole raid could get through the open area where the balls were. And of course, you could call up spikes, and if you got, from the floor, and if you got hit by them, you got damaged, and you got stunned for 2 seconds. He had a flame trap in Heroic that he would toss out, and when they erupted, they did damage. So what we would have to do, and Fury was playing on his Hunter, so what he would do is he would have us position the traps here in a corner, he would hit Turtle, and then he would go through and trigger the traps. Because, he could do that in Turtle. And that was basically just like one of the main portions of the fight. Not to mention you had constant stacking damage with Black Flames and Lingering Flames throughout this fight, so the healers were constantly having to keep healing. There was never a moment's rest for healers in this fight. And you would also be doing the Embers. I'll try and show off this fight as much as I can. This is an insane fight.
Your screams will echo throughout eternity!
Shadow Steel Chains.
So there are the chains, which we would have to try and get away from the group.
Spike balls.
Death comes for you!
We would toss the axe there, and that's where the spikes came. Oh, there are the spiked balls. So you would have to quickly target the balls so that we could make sure the raid had a place to go through. Because if you got hit by those, you were dead.
Cruciform Max.
Unleash the instrument!
Yep.
Flame Flask Trap.
Watch your step.
Shadow Steel
There are the
Chains.
flame traps.
Cruciform Max.
Unleash the instrument!
So now let me show you what happens when we get him to the next portion of the fight, which is when we get his health down, where he decides, I'm gonna make a new weapon.
Insufficient screaming. I must refine my work. Welcome to the killing floor.
So every time he hammered his anvil, it would send that out. We had to avoid that. He also has these spikes come out. You had to make sure that you found the gap here. Sometimes they would be way over here to the side, and then you'd have to go way over to the other side. Whoops. Dash of that, my bad. But yeah, if you got hit by that, you got stunned, which, if you got stunned before that hit, you were basically dead. And then it was like, oh, I had to go over here. So you had to run backwards to make sure. And then you had to go all the way back to the other side.
Shadow Steel Embers.
Your capacity for pain.
By the way, on Mythic, it's even crazier during this part because you had more spiked balls coming out from the sides during that particular phase. So yeah, there's his hammer,
Shadow
where his
Steel
melee
Chains.
damage is now increased by 10%.
Reverberating Hammer.
Unleash the instrument!
So you can see the spikes go out like that.
Comes for you. Insufficient screaming. I must refine. Welcome to the killing floor.
Shadow Steel Embers. Shadow Steel Embers.
Streets of pain will fill these halls.
Shadow Steel Embers. Shadow Steel Embers. Shadow Steel Embers.
Streets of pain will fill these halls.
Shadow Steel Embers. Shadow Steel
Witness
Embers.
my newest creation and despair.
So now his melee damage is increased by 20%.
Shadow Steel Chains. Dual Blade Scythe.
Again, the Lingering Flames just keeps having the damage keep stacking throughout the fight. So there, the spikes goes out, and then it hits in the middle, and then it spreads out. I hope you can see why, when this was current, this fight was kind of nuts, and it was actually kind of a wall for a lot of people. It was a wall, the mythic one was a wall in the Race to World First, and it did take us, if I recall, a little while to make sure we got this fight down. Because there was a lot to try and make sure we got this fight down when it came to our heroic progression. My goodness. Believe it or not, because of the way this works when it comes to like these mechanics and such, this is actually honestly one of my favorite fights in this entire raid. I thought this fight was actually quite creative with all the different mechanics, especially as the fight progressed and continued. Huh. Got the hands for this set. Very nice. Right. So I didn't get the belt from Dormazane, or the wrists from Terragru. I can still get the cloak from Guardian, which I never got. So now we will head to the final area before we can get to Sylvanas, which of course includes Kel'Thuzad.
How fitting that we should face one another here, upon the precipice of death's victory. For too long I've had to disguise my true motives, pretend to serve false masters. When all the while, it was I who helped architect Azeroth's end. The hour has come to make you pay for the indignities I suffered at Naxxramas. Now, at long last, you will kneel before Kel'Thuzad.
So, in my opinion, I'll talk a bit more about this when we get to him, but I feel like his speech is quite a character betrayal of Kel'Thuzad and who he was. It's part of one of the biggest problems I have with Shadowlands was the idea that the jailer was literally the one behind all these things, and now Kel'Thuzad is saying that I was serving false masters. I was never really working with Arthas or anyone else. I was working for the jailer the entire time. And it just feels like a character betrayal to me. Like, things that he's basically saying that it was all like false and pretend, that none of that was true. It was all an act, all on behalf of working with the jailer. And it just does not feel right based on what I remember we learned about Kel'Thuzad, especially back in Warcraft 3. Like, that just doesn't feel like the same version of Kel'Thuzad that I remember. I am glad that he acknowledges what happened in Naxxramas. I'm glad that he is literally like the last time you saw me was in Naxxramas, and you made me suffer indignities while I was there. But now you will. I love that he does say the phrase, kneel before Kel'Thuzad. And by the way, yes, that is still Michael McConaughey voicing Kel'Thuzad, even though he sounds a little off. But it feels like they were trying to, I don't know, have Kel'Thuzad go in a different direction as a character, which is why even the voice of Kel'Thuzad sounds different, even though it's the same actor, because I actually checked whether or not it still was, because I was like, that doesn't sound like Michael McConaughey. But when I checked, it actually was him, and I was like, why do they have him do the voice of Kel'Thuzad differently from how he's done it in the past? I don't get it. Now, before we deal with Kel'Thuzad, there's a couple things we have to do first. So, consider this next boss perhaps a bit of a tease for what we're going to be dealing with in the next raid.
Destroy it all! Leave no evidence for these mortals to find!
Aberrations are attempting to acquire Sepulchre access ciphers. Guardian, you will eradicate them.
So if you, of course, have done the Korthia content, you probably recognize what that artifact basically looks like up there. So that Guardian just one-shot that Colossus there. The Guardian of the First Ones, pulled by the Jailer's chains from a distant unknown realm, Zereth Mortis, this malfunctioning Guardian seeks to protect the inscrutable knowledge known as ciphers. It uses the last of its power to obliterate any who would attempt to plunder the secrets of its enigmatic makers. Obviously, I teased for what we were going to be getting in the next raid in the next zone.
Many deals for a friend of the crowd.
Bag space here. Oh, hey, I had this pet drop, which I already had.
Find good trails.
So this was another big DPS check race fight here. You see these three little pillars on the outside? These were things we had to use because one of the reasons why this guy was a big DPS check was, where is it? Which one is it? Oh, Purging Protocol. This was it. Upon reaching 0 energy, because he's at 45 energy, the Guardian begins to repeatedly unleash pulse of energy that would inflict damage to all players until it can link with an energy core, which is one of those three things there. Each subsequent cast of Purging Protocol increases its damage by 100%. In addition, all sentries that are hit with Purging Protocol are destroyed. Sentries are something you would actually have to deal with during the fight, which are basically like that artifact you see over there. But in order for us to get rid of the stacks of the Purging Protocol, which would just keep stacking over and over, we would have to put him into one of those, the fields of one of those three things right there, those energy cores. So he would also have this thing called Sunder, which was a tank mechanic that he had to deal with, combination of attacks on the primary target, that you had to pop a defensive to mitigate, otherwise it would just be awful. You also had to stack because all targets hit take 5,000% increased damage from Blade for 12 seconds. But yeah, it would also be split evenly among all players. The Sentry was one that put the suppression field and Sentry Fire on us, which would get destroyed by the Purge. The thing about this fight that we had to deal with when it comes to trying to basically go as far long as we can before we ran out of time was trying to get rid of the stacks of Purging Protocol by moving him to an energy core, and he will link it, granting it 5 energy every second. While active, the energy core would emit a field of energy that we would have to stand in the area and take reduced damage from unstable energy. While he was linked, energy cores would pulse energy, so the healers would have to heal through that, and then they would violently erupt in a meltdown, causing damage. I'll try to show these off how I can to give you guys an idea as to why this fight was a crazy DPS check for us to have to meet.
Defend ciphers.
Form Sentry.
Sentry materialized.
So there's the Sentry.
Threat neutralization. Disintegration.
There's the Disintegrate. You had to move out of the way. If you didn't, you took damage, and you got stunned.
Threat neutralization.
Basically, the higher the difficulty, the quicker the cast of that Disintegrate got off. There's the Sundering. Oh! It actually did kill me! I'll be honest, I was not expecting that. That's hilarious. It still kills you. That's really funny. I wonder if I can mitigate, if I just pop Blur, if I can live through that. Because that actually is pretty funny. I totally did not expect it to kill me there.
Many wares.
I'm out of range.
Defend ciphers.
Form Sentry.
Sentry materialized.
You can see the Sentry is firing at me because I'm nearby it.
Threat neutralization. Disintegration.
That was another way you could deal with that.
Threat neutralization.
Elimination
Thunder.
initiated.
Obliterate.
Blur, let's see.
Obliterate.
Nope!
Ciphers defended.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to get to the part where it'll actually, like, do the pulses, just so I can show you guys the energy core part of the fight. Oh, that's funny. Now, if I recall, I actually don't have to stand there and take it. I probably could just move out of the way.
I have many lucky doos you like.
Defend. Ciphers.
I'll find out here in a moment.
Sentry materialized.
That is actually really funny that even this high level, it'll still just one-shot you. That's really funny. What if I popped Netherwalk? Would that work? Netherwalk. Yep, because I'm immune.
Sunder.
10,000%. Alright, so here's Purging Protocol. So you can see he got rid of the sentry there. Attack speed is increased. The more it goes off, the more damage it does to us. So you moved him in here.
Radiant energy.
Link
Energizing
established.
Threat neutralization.
The Guardian will be empowered.
Disintegration.
Charge
down.
depleted.
Threat
Meltdown in
neutralization.
progress.
Form sentry.
And that's basically the fight. So you can probably see why at the time this was a big DPS check, because we had to try and make sure we got him down before we ran out of those pillars and such, you know? Hey, I got the self-replicating tissue.
Seem to be
Woo!
pulling other realms into the maw, as was done to Korthia. What else is the jailer looking for? I fear we may be too late.
I have many wares. Good fortune to our friends.
So yeah, this was obviously before we found out about Zareth Mortis.
Farewell, friend of the Grummels.
Now the next fight, oh my goodness, whereas this was DPS check, this next fight was a massive coordination check. A puzzle boss, basically. So, here's the thing. When we were in Korthia, we encountered a Fate Scribe, or like someone who was trying to be a Fate Scribe and learn about some things on behalf of like the people who work at in Oribos. Trying to learn things and become a scribe and learn secrets and such. But then he was captured, and we were actually saw this in the questline. He was captured by the jailer's forces, and we were like, oh no, what happened to him? I hope he's okay. He was brought here. And basically, well, you can imagine they probably mentally tortured him and brainwashed him to the point where he became this.
Rings within rings. Hide. He tore it from my mind. Only shadows remain.
Once a Fate Scribe entrusted with Korthia's countless secrets, the Mossworn seized Ro Callow and bound him to the jailer's will. With Torghast's power at his disposal, Rogue Kallo seeks to author a new fate for the Shadowlands. So, the initial part of this fight is not that bad, because we're basically fighting him, and the mechanics for this initial part of the fight was not that bad. The real part of this fight involved these rings in the room, as you can see. He would activate it, which would push us all over here. A couple of ads would spawn, but then we had to do a bit of a puzzle, which was basically moving certain pieces around to match, because if we didn't do it in a certain amount of time, because you can see realignment to clockwise and counterclockwise, if we didn't do that, 45 seconds, it would invoke the Darkest Destiny, which would kill all players, ensuring swift and unceremonious deaths for all players. Now, I have tested this in both normal and mythic, and when I was not able to do that because I'm by myself, it didn't kill me. So we'll see how this goes.
It's too far away.
I've always loved how he said that when we pulled him, "They are gathered! The door opens!" He sounds like as if he's literally lost his mind, right?
Fated conjunction.
Threads of fate pulled bare!
Call of eternity.
Eternity devours itself.
So here it comes at 70% the first time he does this.
Leads your destruction.
Here are the big ads that we had to fight in this particular fight here.
Despair.
So you had to go to the symbol and start moving it. Sometimes these would be forgiving, sometimes they would not. Like this one is forgiving because it's right here. So it's like, okay, you just stand here and it will move. Now here's the thing. Not anyone could do this. Basically the game would assign certain people to do certain ones.
Can you see the endless?
But yeah, that's basically the fight right there. You would have to solve that puzzle within 45 seconds, otherwise the raid would wipe. Got an offhand? Okay. But yeah, that was basically the fight, and let's just say it took us quite a bit to try and make sure we got it down. We had to come up with a specific weak aura to make sure it showed who was actually assigned to do, like, which particular ring. And usually if someone didn't do it right, it was a wipe and we had to try again. I remember us spending a lot of time on that boss, trying to get that right. Oh, take a look. Abominations. I wonder why. Oh yeah, because now it's time for Kel'Thuzad. So of course we're seeing abominations, banshees, stuff we would have probably seen back in Noxramas. Kel'Thuzad. The nefarious Kel'Thuzad awaits at the apex of the Soul River, allowing the Lich to draw upon an unlimited well of power. All his countless schemes and machinations have led to this final confrontation, where he has plotted the mortal champion's ultimate demise in service of his true master. So I should point out that when I was first doing this fight was bugged. It might still be. So basically, one of the ways that they have tried to make it where you could actually solo this fight, because the thing about this fight is it has both an upstairs phase and a downstairs phase, where basically you have to kill Kel'Thuzad multiple times. I actually really like this fight, where he uses, of course, chains and ice. He'll use Howling Blizzard on you. He has these things where he summons the souls, which will... actually, no, it's not. Is it the Oblivion's Echo or the Soul Shard? But basically, like, a soul will show up and do like a piercing wail, and you had to, DPS it down before it did that to really hurt the raid. There was the Glacial Spike that we had to take care of, which on Heroic did stacking extra damage. The other part of this fight, though, is that once we got his health down, he doesn't die. Instead, he goes into the phylactery. It opens and restores him to life once more. It just keeps doing that. But while it's open, we can enter the phylactery to battle the last remnant of Kel'Thuzad's soul. And it's during this time that Kel'Thuzad would use March of the Forsaken to summon his minions to protect his exposed phylactery, which is what happens up here. While we go downstairs to attack the remnant of Kel'Thuzad. The thing about the way that this is set up for soloing, though, because the remnant of Kel'Thuzad is down there, it happens at 60% and 20%, is that they put Arthas here to tank the ads that show up during this part of the fight. You will actually see a little version of Arthas right here, so that I can go down into the phylactery and fight the remnant of Kel'Thuzad while he stays up here and tanks the ads. The bug that is going on with this fight, the last time I did it, was that the remnant of Kel'Thuzad is actually invisible. You will go down there and you won't be able to see him, you won't be able to target him. The way to deal with this is AoE, basically. Now, as a Demon Hunter, I can either go ahead and just pop Immolation Aura, I could put Sigil Flame right where I know he is going to be, which he always stood in the middle of the platform every single time. Like, I could I-beam wherever he is in his direction. There's a number of things I can do personally, and I know other classes can do, where you can just AoE to just try and take out the remnant of Kel'Thuzad. That's basically a workaround the bug that they have to deal with right now. But I just also love that Arthas is up here tanking the ads for me while I am dealing with the remnant of Kel'Thuzad. So let me see if I can show off this fight however I can. The thing is, I can't show off all of them because, like I said, the remnant is actually invisible. So I can't actually, like, show you the mechanics that Remnant did in the phylactery because he's literally invisible. So anyways. Whoops.
You meddled with my...
There he is! There's Arthas! Who's a good puppy? He's actually attacking Arthas! It's okay, Arthas has got this. He can tank this.
No, the abyss!
Alright, so there's the echo of myself doing the wail. So yeah, these are the ads. There's the piercing wail, which we had to stop and interrupt before it got off, otherwise it would really hurt the raid. There's the glacial spike, which, as you saw, does lots of damage. Soul fracture again.
Can you feel the chill in your bones? None can resist my power!
You rooted me during this, really?
Power to best me!
By the way, you have to go down here and get it down, because if you don't... Oh, they fixed it! Okay, it's actually been fixed. Wonderful.
Freezing blast.
I shall my mastery over death is absolute!
So once you got to a certain point, you had to go back up, otherwise it would kill you. And just continue this fight until you completely destroy the remnant. What a great tank Arthas is, isn't he? Although he's losing health. Hang on, Arthas.
You expect to kill me? I command death in my phylactery!
So, yeah, we've now destroyed the phylactery and what's left of his soul, which means if we kill him one more time, he's dead for good.
Deep freeze.
That's one of the significant parts about this.
Deep freeze.
Only ice and brine
Deep freeze.
await
Frost
you.
blast.
So, listen to what Kel'Thuzad says when he gets low on health. And this to me is another, like... I hate that this is...
Only ice.
what has they resorted him down to.
Onslaught.
Come on.
Armies of the damned! Destroy them! Can't wait! Stop!
Deep freeze. Frost blast.
So they cut him off, but he says, "Wait! Stop! I can offer you unimaginable power!"
Only
And forgive me, but I hate the fact that they resorted and brought Kel'Thuzad down to just like, as he's dying, that he grovels for his life. I hate that. I mean, that just reduces him down in quality as a villain to me, that he's like, as he's dying, he's like, "Wait, no, don't kill me! I can give you whatever you want! No!"
Almost to the summit. Be on your guard.
But yeah, if there's one thing I'm always going to hate
with us all.
Shadowlands for, is how much they
Fight
ruin the
to
character of
save our
Kel'Thuzad.
world. For Azeroth!
Hey! The two-handed sword that I never got back in Shadowlands. But I really wanted. So, it's now time for our big final encounter. Sylvanas Windrunner.
Nelly deals for a friend of the Grummles. Like you. Many farewell.
Azeroth's champions. You've arrived at last. Despite witnessing the broken cycle of life and death with your own eyes, still, you would stop us from remaking this flawed system. What a pity.
There are no more Valkyr to protect you, Sylvanas. You will die here for the last time.
The Archer does not mourn the loss of their arrows, High Lord. A shame you won't survive to witness our victory. But if it's an ending you seek, then come and meet it.
With Oribos in peril, a desperate battle at the pinnacle of the Sanctum begins. Standing between the jailer and the mortals who would stop him is Sylvanas Windrunner. With no masks left to wear, the Banshee Queen unleashes her full power to protect the Banished One while his ultimate plan unfolds. So like I said, I really like the armor that she wears in this. I think it's a really cool appearance. I would love to have this armor rather than the new classic one that we have. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like that we have it. It's not bad. It's cool. I like the extra options that they provide for you, such as whether or not you want a quiver on the cloak and everything. But I just would rather have this if I had to choose between them. But I hope we get this someday because I think it looks really cool. And then, of course, there are her weapons. Look at those daggers. Actually, don't even have to show it there. I mean, yeah, you can see it in action. Like, you can see the glowing tips there. And, of course, the bow. Which, of course, she drops them both. As a rogue, actually it's not even marked as for a rogue only anymore, but you could get these daggers if you wanted, which would have this effect where it applied Banshee's Blight, giving her finishing moves a 30% chance per combo point spent to deal shadow damage. Banshee's Blight stacked up 4 times, so the target became more injured. And then, of course, her bow. Ray Shalar, Death's Whisper. Gain the ability to fire a wailing arrow, which deals shadow damage to your target and other nearby enemies and silences any creatures struck. This is obviously now part of the Dark Ranger hero talent tree that hunters have. And then, of course, there's the Dark Ranger's Quiver, which, of course, is a different color based on each difficulty. Every 10 shots trigger Withering Fire, striking up to 5 enemies in front of you for shadow damage. So if you were a hunter and you were able to get both of these, you were in a pretty good spot. Alright, so now let's talk about the fight. This fight, oh my goodness, this is a long fight. This was a fight where you could actually lust twice. First here on pole, and then again in the last phase of the fight. This was a long fight. Oh my goodness. Basically, you had this initial portion. By the way, she has a massive amount of health, and her health goes down very slowly. So, you would get her down to like about, I think, 80% or so. The fight doesn't end with her at 0%. It ends with her at 50%, 45 on Mythic. This was actually discovered during the Race to World First, where Echo thought they had gotten the World First kill on Sylvanas when they saw her at 50%, and then her health kept going down. And that's when they realized, oh my gosh, we have to get her down to 45%. Which, anyone who knows the Race to World First, 5% of a boss health can actually be a daunting task. But it was a cool way to discover that, honestly. I thought that was a really cool way to figure that out. But she has a lot when it comes to this fight. She has these domination chains that you had to DPS down because they would pull you. If they got pulled in, I think it would keep damaging you every second. It was pretty nasty. She would launch these things across the platform, which would do calamity. It would radiate and corrupt energy. It would hit you. And then once you got to the next part, you had an intermission, where we then had some running across platforms to do. We're basically on our way towards the area in Oribos where the Arbiter, where the Arbiter was basically disabled, because that's where Zoval is going. And so we're basically also having to deal with a whole bunch of ads and evade a number of mechanics that Sylvanas is shooting at us. We had to interrupt a cache he does called Ruin, where it would basically wipe the raid if we didn't get to her and interrupt it. We then could get to the final phase of the fight in Oribos, where we're having to basically DPS down Sylvanas before we ran out of room. That was basically the DPS check portion of the fight. There was a lot to this fight.
Very well. Death it is!
I do like that we see Bolvar, Thrall, and Jaina all try to help out.
Mercy!
But yeah, you'll see a number of interesting mechanics that Sylvanas does here, like this.
To the dead!
Domination chain.
Shackles you!
Wailing arrow.
Huh. All the arrows are being targeted on me.
Hit my mark. Darkness take you.
Veil of darkness.
We had to get out of this to avoid getting hit by it.
Windrunner. Shadow dagger.
Mercy!
Barbed arrow.
To the dead!
Domination
you are
chain.
unfit to stand against me!
I do like that they go over it and help break it out. You see that? Bolvar and Thrall and Jaina all went to attack the arrow to free me.
Right.
So yeah, she would do Rive here on Heroic 8 times, where we had to avoid getting hit by that, but also avoid all those from it. During this portion, she has Banshee Shroud, where the damage she takes is reduced by 99%, so there was basically no point in DPSing her here. You were just having to literally run around, avoid getting hit by things, and survive till the next phase of the fight.
Your lives end here!
Your efforts are futile. Oribos is within my grasp. No! We will stop you! Jaina, we need a portal. The jailer must not take the Eternal City!
Something is limiting my magic. Where...
Behind our quarry. Heroes with me!
Is the jailer trying to break out of the maw? Or
Haunting
something
wave.
else?
Blood
Haunting
and
wave.
thunder!
Haunting wave.
So yeah, you had to avoid all these. Jaina's over there, fighting them.
Haunting wave.
He's expanding the maw around Oribos!
Haunting wave.
I've opened the way. Go! Stop Sylvanas!
Ruin.
The Banshee is aiming at our heads!
Ruin.
This power is not
Banshee
yours
Shroud.
to command!
I shattered your throne! Now I'll break you.
Shadow dagger.
Your crusade ends here, Banshee!
All hope is
Veil of
lost.
darkness.
Yield, Sylvanas!
Shadow dagger.
Hear the sound!
With me, champions! Jaina needs our strength!
Scout ahead! Champions will assist the
Haunting
Admiral!
wave.
There's too many of them! Thank you, Bolvar. Quickly!
I can't tell you how many times people would fall off this platform. And I would tell people, just angle your camera up when you run across and you wouldn't be likely to fall off. But people still kept doing it.
Haunting wave.
And I was just like, guys, just move your camera. It's not that hard.
Hurry! Thrall needs us!
Sylvanas means to claim our heads! Stop her! Is there no end to these creatures?
Ruin. Ruin.
Press the attack! The jailer must be stopped!
Their forces are numberless!
Haunting wave. Veil of darkness.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Ruin.
I'm confused. Why does it feel like this portion got a little bugged here? I think it did. Okay, hold on. Let's start over.
The cycle will be broken. At long last, we will have justice.
So that may have been a bug.
Good fortune to our friends.
Because they didn't then make the platform to go across. But basically, like you saw there, I can't tell you guys how many times I saw people fall off the bridge there. The platforms that Thrall and Jaina would make, they would just fall off. And I'm like, guys, just move your camera like where it's angled and facing down when you're going across, and you will likely not fall off because you can see where the holes in the bridge are.
Very well. Death it is!
Windrunner. Barbed Arrow. Shadow Dagger. Desecrating Shot.
To the dead! You
Domination
are unfit
Chain.
to stand against.
Alright, let's try and get through this next portion a little... Let's go through it a little faster so I can get to the last stage and show you guys how it works there.
But you are unworthy of a precinct.
Right. Right.
Zobal will not be denied.
Right. 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 Right.
Your lives end here!
Something is limiting my magic. Where...
Behind our quarry. Heroes with me!
Is the jailer trying to break out of the maw? Or something else?
Blood and
Haunting
thunder!
Haunting Wave.
By the light.
Haunting Wave.
He's expanding the maw around Oribos!
Haunting Wave.
Come on, Thrall.
I've opened the way. Go! Stop Sylvanas!
The Banshee is aiming at our heads! This power is not yours!
I shattered your throne. Now I'll break you. Hear the sound of suffering!
With me,
Shadow
champions!
Dagger.
Jaina needs our strength!
Haunting
Scout
Wave.
ahead! Champions, we'll assist the Admiral!
There's too many of them! Thank you, Bolvar. Quickly, champions! Stop Sylvanas!
Ruin. Summon decrepit orbs.
Hurry! Thrall
Haunting
needs
Wave.
us!
Sylvanas me! Is there no end to these creatures?
Summon decrepit orbs.
I am in your debt, High Lord. Heroes, to me! Let's regroup with Jaina.
We're done with your games, Sylvanas.
Banshee Shroud. Ruin.
You will pay!
Shadow
All of
Dagger.
you will pay!
You don't have to do this! Surrender!
Haunting
Suffer
Wave.
my wrath! Hear the sound of suffering!
Banshee Shroud.
It's done! Hurry!
No! The jailer is going to destroy the Arbiter!
Quickly, champions! Stop Sylvanas!
Death bends to my will. Heed the call of the Banshee Queen.
So you can see both the Jailer and Anduin here working on the Arbiter. While we now begin the last phase of the fight, which is the DPS portion. This is where we would pop Bloodlust again to try to get her down to 50% health to win the fight. You notice those 4 platforms there? Well, you can also see how this is getting covered up.
Veil of Darkness.
So there's going to be a mechanic where we're actually going to be able to leap over to the next platform, and this is the race portion of the fight, where we're basically having to make sure that we can actually get to the platform before it gets covered up and explodes, so we can actually continue the fight and have a shot at actually winning it.
Banshee's Bane.
Hear my cry and despair.
Wailing Arrow. Banshee's Fury.
I always hit me.
He's done it. The Arbiter falls.
And that's basically the fight.
We already have what we need!
Too long I endured the Maker's flawed design. I will forge a new reality, where all shall serve.
I will never serve.
Still chained by mortality, you did help restore something stolen from me. Allow me to repay you in kind.
The jailer is gone. Wherever that gateway led, it's been sealed behind him.
We thought the jailer was coming to slay the Arbiter, but he absorbed her essence.
As if her power and the sigil were his all along.
Jailer be damned! He's got Anduin. No matter where he's gone, we will find him.
Maybe she knows.
Yes. Sylvanas said something before she collapsed, but I couldn't make it out.
My knights will hold her captive here in Oribos. When she awakens, we can begin the interrogation. For now, we should return to Corvia. Let us hope the Primus can explain the jailer's plan, and tell us what must be done to stop him.
The bow dropped. So, I already got the appearance for this bow when I first ran this. Testing it out to see if I could actually do this raid solo before recording it. That's hilarious. Apparently this bow is now just dropping like candy for everybody. At least for me. I would say if you're wanting this bow, go run this raid, because it's probably going to drop for you. So, when it comes to that cutscene, obviously, I don't know why the subtitles didn't play. That's probably a bug. But, I remember at the time just thinking how hilarious it was that she was saying that she would never serve when she has been serving this whole time. And it's just like, what, now all of a sudden, just because it kind of like reminded you of how, oh yeah, this is the same guy who is actually the Lich King the whole time and responsible for what I've done. I apparently only just now made this connection, even though that's something she should have realized before. But especially also, here's the thing. I've read the Sylvanas book. So it makes this scene make even less sense because of the fact that this is something she would have known and figured out. And yet, it was only just now that she apparently realized this and was like, oh no, I'm never going to serve. It's like, even though you actually have been, and yeah. I've let it be known also that I'm not a fan. I've never liked Sylvanas as a character. Even going back to Warcraft 3, she was not a character that appealed to me, or that I thought was interesting, or that I liked. So, I was just very irritated, and I was someone who was looking forward to this raid only to finally fight Sylvanas, because I wanted to throughout all of BFA. But, you know, it is what it is, I guess. But of course, where did the jailer go? Well, obviously, we now know that he went to the next raid that we will be heading to, which is the Sepulchre of the First Ones. And I will do that in the next part. I will take you guys there next time. In the meantime, I gotta cut this off and get ready for raid time, because it's getting close. We're actually going to be starting raid in half an hour, so I will see you guys when we head to Sepulchre, and wish us luck in trying to see if we can get our guild AOTC against Queen Ansarek. Stay tuned.